There's three things in the United States government that have no statute of limitations: murder, counterfeiting, and moonshining. So, if you do some other crime, after 20 years, they can't convict you of it. Those three things, 100 years later, I could be 100, and, oh, Paul, we found out you were distilling in your basement. We're going to arrest you. But I wanted to take the risk, and I did.
Introducing Checkwriters, a video podcast for people who want to help their employees, colleagues, and organizations flourish and succeed. I'm your host, Dakota Hebert, Chief Marketing Officer at Checkwriters. Along with my co-host, HR Manager Felicia Corbeil, we'll hear from business leaders and pros who share captivating stories from their respective industries. Join us as we uncover their strategies and get unique inspiration for building great processes and experiences at your own organization. Check out and subscribe to Checkwriters on Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen and watch your favorite shows. Thanks for watching. I've always loved hearing the origin stories of great brands. Some of the most fascinating are the founders of liquor and spirit brands, and they're often hundreds of years old, like Jack Daniel's, Hennessy, or Jameson Irish Whiskey. There's something about the experimentation, distillation process, and search for that perfect recipe that typifies the entrepreneurial spirit. In this episode of Checkwriters, we sit down with Paul Kozub, founder and creator of V-One Vodka. Hear about what Paul learned when he started distilling vodka in his basement, the secret ingredient that makes his vodka unique, what it's like operating a distillery overseas, and why V-One is not only the smoothest, but also the healthiest vodka on the market. I'm so excited today to welcome Paul Kozub, the founder and CEO of world-class vodka brand V-One Vodka, which everyone says, once you taste V-One, no other vodka compares, and we're going to hear why. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. What is vodka? What are the key ingredients, kind of the history of it? Because I know you've got a lot to talk about with how it's made in the process.
Yeah, despite what the Russians say, vodka was invented in Poland, 1405. The first written word was in Sandomierz, Poland, which happens to be less than a half hour away from our distillery. So we've had a 700 year history of vodka making, and we have a definition in Poland of what vodka is versus other countries that are more liberal with what is vodka, like America. We have a much wider definition, but vodka is a grain neutral spirit made from potatoes or grains, not grapes, not corn. It has to be 37.5% alcohol or above. If it's below, it's called a grain neutral spirit. So it has to be distilled in a certain way. And in Poland, we have to use all Polish ingredients. Mm-hmm. So that's the definition of vodka. Like a lot of people, I thought all vodkas were the same. And that, the best you could get was Absolut. But after my trip to Poland in 2004, which was basically a fact-finding mission. Pretty much since the second I landed in Krakow, it changed my life.
Mm-hmm. So you were telling us earlier about what makes V-One different and the ingredients. So you mentioned just now that a lot of the ones on the market that might be everyone knows are made of corn. Tell us about what V-One is made out of.
Yeah, so we're 100% organic Spelt. It's in the wheat family. It's named in the Bible. It's one of the ancient grains. It's never been genetically modified. The reason why a lot of people have gluten allergies is because our food is not how God made it. It's been hybridized and changed. Where Spelt, or farro is the Italian word, is one of the ancient grains. So it's more natural, more easily digestible. About 1% of all wheat. So it's in the wheat family, but it's its own kind of variety. About only 1% of all wheat that's grown in the world is Spelt or farro. So it's harder to grow, harder to harvest. You have to dehull it because it has a tough outer husk. But when I made the 33rd, 34th batch of V-One with Spelt, my friends still make fun of me, but it brought a tear to my eye. And I was like, this is it. Like when I saw my wife, went on our first date, this is the girl I'm going to marry.
Yeah.
So with your, you said that was your 33rd or 34th attempt. What were the other attempts like kind of leading up to that? What did you use? Were you using Spelt? Were you using other ingredients?
Yeah, the first 5 were in my basement. there's a lot of miracles about how V1 came to existence. And I think the first is I got a D in chemistry in high school. So to kind of distill something in my basement, tap into this water system in my house, figure out how to put this still together. There's three things in the United States government that have no statute of limitations: murder, counterfeiting, and moonshining. So, if you do some other crime, after 20 years, they can't convict you of it. Those three things, 100 years later, I could be 100 and, oh, Paul, we found out you were distilling in your basement. We're going to arrest you. But I wanted to take the risk, and I did. And so that initial making alcohol, use sugar is its simplest way of doing it, fermenting sugar and yeast and water in this Home Depot tub and this handmade still. And then I moved on to potatoes, being in Hadley, surrounded by great Polish potato farmers, Swazlowski Farms. And I really enjoyed Chopin vodka, which is a Polish potato vodka, one of the first luxury vodkas in the world. So those were the first few ingredients. And again, I knew I wasn't going to make anything great. It was just I had to start somewhere. And kind of the big break I had initially was finding a website called polishvodka.com. And the guy that ran it, his name was Merrick. He was in Krakow. And he's like, I can help you with this project, making it become a reality. Send me $1,000 a month. And back then, $1,000 a month is probably like 25,000 now, especially in Poland. And everyone was telling me, hey, you're crazy sending this guy you never met this money. And I was like, well, I'm 27. Do it for 6 months or a year. If I'm out that money, then at least I tried. And, he really helped me kind of take it from that basement to introducing me to some of the top distilleries in Poland.
Wow.
So it sounds like there was really some trial and error in the early days until you figured out this is the one. This is the taste profile that I want. And what does the organic Spelt do to the flavor profile of vodka?
Yeah, the analogy I like to give is, this watch, Samsung watch, cost me $200, made with plastic. It tells time. What's the difference between this and a Rolex? Rolex obviously is good. Rolex watches are made from gold. They have the mechanical process, the ingredients that go into it. So, water is basically water. We all use reverse osmosis purified water. There are some vodkas that say they use ocean water or whatever. For me, that's kind of polluting the vodka. You want to have a clean vodka. Distillation is important. We have one of the finest distilleries in the world, so we distill it very well. So trial and error, learning ingredients. So what does a rye vodka taste like? What is a potato vodka? What kinds of potatoes? There was a vodka that came out when I was beginning called Ultimate Vodka. It was actually a mix of a spirit of wheat, potatoes, and rye. So they mixed the three, which was an interesting product. So the trial and error was just searching for different ingredients. Again, I'm the youngest of 5 children. So my oldest brother went to Harvard. I was kind of not as smart as him. What can I do to make myself successful, to be different, but not to be different, just to be different. I wanted it to be the best. I started the company out on my dad. He was, I call him the ultimate entrepreneur. He quit his job when he had 5 kids. Started with nothing and saw that business grow from, I started when I was 4, and by the time I was in high school, it had grown quite a bit. So what can I do to kind of follow in his footsteps and make something special that was really, I focused initially with V1 on 100% on the liquid. Now, 20 years later, how important the packaging is and the marketing and all that stuff, where, the best-selling rum in the United States is one of the worst tasting. The best-selling tequila in the United States is one of the worst tasting, but they have great marketing. So that shows the importance. But I focused on the liquid. There's a whole kind of story on my final decision on why I chose Spelt, and we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, let's go
Yeah,
into
go
it.
for it.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny. I heard you on another podcast say something along the lines like, if we had a week, I could tell you all about like the Spelt and the process. So we don't
Yeah.
have a week, but we have some
Well,
time. Let's go
now
for it.
people have got to keep it to the point.
Yeah.
But so when I was working on those different ingredients, V1 was going to be like the 20 to 28 were potato. And, potatoes are 8 cents a pound. Spelt's $2 a pound. So you use 3 pounds per bottle. So you do the math, right?
Yeah.
That one is significantly more expensive. So I was working with Asha, a master distiller, and tasted V1 with Spelt for the first time. And again, I was like, this is it. And I went home back to my hotel. Remember, it was a summer day, super hot, no air conditioning in this hotel. And this was back when now with WhatsApp, I can call people, for free. It was like $25 a minute to call, like back home.
Yeah.
And I called several people and being like, I think I'm going to go with Spelt. No one answered. And I was like, I'm on my own. I got to kind of decide. And it's just like, you never be let down going with the best, with the finest. Like, I could walk into any bar, any liquor store and be like, here, what's the best vodka you have on your shelf? Try it versus V1. And, we win majority of the time. And so knowing that, like going door to door, like starting with $6,000 with this business, like the liquid had to be the best or else you wouldn't be successful.
So you actually went door to door?
Yeah. So when I started, I didn't know one owner of a restaurant or one owner of a liquor store. I drove down Route 9. I had an old van wrapped with the V1 logo and knocked on the doors and, came to Northampton to, there was a Table and Vine here. And I remember the two managers were like, tasted it, like, we're blown away. We'll take 10 cases, like 10 cases unheard of for initial order.
Yeah.
And those two guys still in the business, still friends of mine. And we talk about it all the time. I remember this young, naive kid walking in, selling vodka. And that's it. You have to start somewhere.
So obviously that kind of plays into your work ethic. And I've heard you speak a little bit about this before, but like the idea that, you build a business from nothing or next to nothing, just with that small inheritance, and you go door to door to build it and to sell it because you believe in the product. But tell us a little bit about, growing up, and I know you mentioned your dad was an entrepreneur also, and how that helped develop your own work ethic.
Yeah, I mean, just, sometimes your parents can talk to you about things, but when you see them living it and doing it, obviously it's more effective. So I saw, how hard he worked, the passion he had for his company, and, the day-to-day of running a business and, how hard it is sometimes. And, it was my inspiration. Again, athletes, a lot of times we're seeing like the next generation of an athlete, right? Tiger Woods kid, right? He saw his dad work so hard every day to be, the best golfer in the world, and now his son's getting there. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
and then when you love something, I love the creation of new lines. For a decade, I said I'm never making a flavor vodka, and I do promos and be like, oh, when you coming out with a raspberry, when you come out with a grape, I'm not making flavors. But after 10 years, I was like, I want to do something. I want to create something. So I created V1 Vanilla, and it was actually called V1 Love, because I wanted the first brand to be, to honor my dad. And it was vanilla with a hint of rose. Launched it, and a week later, I got a letter in the mailbox saying, "Get cease and desist on V1 Love," because I own the word love and vodka together. I was like, how could someone own the word love? Well, $25,000 later, fighting him, it was like, okay, you win. So now it's V1 Vanilla. But creating different things, and again, I probably had about 30 to 40 recipes. I kind of developed a really good way of starting with the recipe, moving through it, and then kind of finalizing it.
I saw a quote from you in some article where you were talking. You said companies like Grey Goose and Belvedere have all this money to develop and market their product. How do I compete with that? I've competed by just not being afraid. So tell us a little bit about that, because you are going up against these like behemoth brands, like everybody knows Grey Goose, Belvedere, like things like that. So what's that like every day going up against these guys in, restaurants, bars, the minds of consumers?
I'm reminded every day that I sell a drug and this is regulated. That's definitely one of the biggest hurdles. If I made the best leather belt, Paul's leather belts, I could put it online and talk about how I created it and just sell it to anybody. I can't even step one foot into Connecticut with a bottle. It has to be at the distributor. I have to go pick it up from the distributor. There's certain law. Every state is different. So those things are very, very challenging. But you have to start somewhere. And a lot of those brands, even like a Tito's, you have to respect. His real name is Bertito Beverage. He put that company on 16 credit cards and started. Now it's by far the biggest vodka in America. Someone offered him, I think 7 or 10 billion, and he turned it down. Now it's probably worth 15 billion.
Wow.
So, again, going back to how I grew up, that the American dream is still alive, to see my dad, what he did. And hopefully my kids see how I'm growing V1 in a organic way. Every day I wish it was 10 times bigger, but I also look to where it started. And, I say this fact a lot, but it is true. 97 out of 100 vodkas fail within, or any alcohol brand fail within the first 3 years. So the fact that this will be our 19th year, obviously we're doing something right. You have the highs and lows, the 2 steps forward, 1 step back every day, every week. But it's got to be something you love to do.
Yeah.
Going back to the flavors that you were talking about. So you said for the first 10 years you didn't do a flavor, and then when you did, it was the V1 Love. Going forward now, how do you decide which flavors to create or invent? Like how your creative process, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. I take a lot of my inspiration from different trends, and I never really thought about lemon and berry were the like 2 top selling. Like I'm gonna make a lemon. It's more like seeing what mixologists are doing in New York City or what's popular in cocktails. So, for example, actually, this is a good segue. Would you guys like to have a sip of?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. What do we have here? Jamie, you made these for us. What is it? With V1 vodka. Yeah.
And I think you use Mr. Black coffee liqueur, which is a great coffee liqueur. So espresso martinis, to answer your question, are actually, let's do a sip first.
Okay.
Say cheers and Nostrovia.
Nostrovia, okay.
I mean, how could you go wrong? Amazing.
It's true, yeah.
Really good.
Very good.
It's excellent.
10 out of 10.
So tell us about the espresso martini and how to Felicia, because you have a flavored.
So my double espresso is 2 years old, and it's now my most popular number 1 seller out of the 10. That just started seeing how popular espresso martinis were. It was the Cosmo, lemon drop, other different drinks, and I was like, this is going crazy. Funny story about V1 double espresso is I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Really? Why do people keep saying that to me? I don't know, because I drink coffee nonstop.
It's kind of a claim. Like, I think, who said it? Belichick or something was just in an interview and he said he's never had a cup of coffee. I'm like, you stole that from me. I've never heard anyone say that before. But for me, again, growing up with my dad and his business, 4 or 5 years old, then 8, 9, he'd bring me to the office on Saturday and say, hey, Paul, if you want money for the week, you got to clean my office, sweep the floors, clean the bathrooms. Got that $20 Checkwriters every week. Part of the thing was everyone in the office drank so much coffee, and I'd be like cleaning these mugs, and I'd be like so grossed out by it.
Oh,
and that was just like It's just something that, and then it's funny because my wife is like the biggest. She's on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I'm like,
Nonstop coffee.
I,
Does she like the
I,
espresso
oh,
martinis?
she has the machine. She has everything. I'm like, if I have to spend one more second in a like I hate Starbucks. It's so annoying. It annoys me. The lines. I'm like, get me out of here. But so I saw how popular they were. So the first thing I usually do is go to the liquor store and be like, who's making espresso vodka? And Van Gogh or Three Olives or Sky. I tried them all and it was like nothing made me it was like nothing special about these. And in fact, one of the most popular ones, I was like, this tastes like vanilla, chocolate, most like 60% chocolate, 30% vanilla, and 10% espresso. Now, again, how do I know what coffee tastes like? I never had, I've had coffee, ice cream, I
Yeah.
kind of get the point of it. I'm like, this doesn't taste like coffee. So went to Poland, got the beans, started infusing, and then had those other vodkas there that I brought with me and tasted. I'm like, wow, this V1, these batches taste more like coffee. Then bring them home. You're allowed to bring 2 liters of alcohol back on any international flight. My record is 58. So
It's heavy.
yeah, so usually 2 bags, and I got yelled at once, but I figure they have bigger things to worry about than me importing
Yeah,
illegal
right.
amounts of alcohol. But I'm like, no, I know it's $2.14 in federal tax and 80, and if you want me to pay that, but
Yeah.
so I bring it home and again taste people on it, and versus the other, other competitors. If one of the reasons I made a vodka like I did, we have great local breweries at the time. You have great small wineries that make great wine. I was like, there's no small batch high quality vodka. So if there was, I probably wouldn't have done it. And that's kind of the same thing with these. Everything I create, it's like I want to do it and be different and be the best at it. And so I was just surprised at this brand that sells a lot of espresso vodka. I was like, it doesn't. When I've tasted 500 people on each one, and not one person has picked the other one. People who pick V1 is tasting better.
I've heard that in any of it. Yeah, I was just gonna have some also, but any of the videos that you have these video clips that you put on social media and stuff. But it does seem like once you get V1 in front of people, then it's like, wow, you know what, this flavor profile is something different. So everyone says it's so smooth, and you can even taste that in this how smooth it is. I'm gonna have a little bit more also.
Yeah, we call it a drinkability. In my office, the V1 headquarters, I have probably over 500 different vodkas. Tried them all, and kind of again after this, right? You get the 10,000 hours of experience. I know what to look for in the nose. I mean, a new vodka came out by another celebrity. I had it like last week. I nosed it, and before I even came close to tasting it, I knew exactly what it would taste like by how I smelled it. And then after someone's like, "Oh, do you know it's only distilled once?" And I was like, "Yeah, I could smell the methanol and acetone, the impurities."
Yeah.
That was their point. They wanted it to be more flavorful, but flavor means that's acetone, which you girls or guys today take off nail polish.
Yeah.
That's a byproduct of crappy alcohol. So I could smell that in that product.
Yeah, that's
some
funny
reason
because
they
you
went-
think back to college and like drinking cheap alcohol, it's like hand sanitizer.
Yeah, that's
you know?
like what it smells like and what it tastes like. Yeah.
Yeah, so during COVID, there was a lot of small distilleries in New England that, got impacted by it, and they were making sanitizer. And I was like, so then you're going to go back to drinking what they were using with sanitizer? I was like,
Yeah.
V1 can never make sanitizer.
Yeah.
It's not in our DNA.
That's kind of a good marketing line. It's not sanitizer. Yeah, it's much better than that. So you know what? Since we're looking at the table here with our delicious espresso martinis, why don't we talk a little bit about the bottle design? Because I know that's a big thing for you, and I think I've heard you speak a little bit about it at another event. But you had this was created by designers in Cognac, France, right? So considered some of the top liquor bottle and wine bottle designers in the world. Why don't you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this bottle nearly put me in the grave. Again, when you start with such little money and you grow a business, you have to kind of use what you have. And so I was using a Futura style bottle, same as Belvedere and Chopin. They dip theirs. They have a frosting process. where
Sorry,
they
what
dip
did you call it? This what style bottle?
Futura.
Okay.
It's a special style bottle. So it's a stock bottle. And, sold 500,000 of those bottles, did well with it. But every time, like, I'd be in a store and I'd see it in a cart, I'd be like, just didn't look right. And, I knew that it was to do your own bottle, it's going to be, about $250,000. And, so we started the project in 2016 and met these guys in Warsaw, these two French guys. And they had produced and I still have them, like 15 different bottle styles, all, wild with like different etched glass and different shapes. And I kind of had what I wanted in my mind. There was a couple of brands that I wanted something similar. And so I took one of their designs and I worked with it, and it took about a year. And, the way the bottle is thinner at the bottom, a little wider at the top. It's kind of the way you can handle it. We're all about farm to glass. We grow all our own Spelt right in Kamień. We ferment, we distill.
Kamień, Poland. Yep.
Kamień means stone. And kind of something I've been thinking about as a religious person is the stone that people rejected has become the cornerstone. It's kind of a Bible verse. So to me, to be there in this stone town in Poland. Now there's 17 Kamień in Poland, so I have to tell you which one we're near. So that now when I see V1 in someone's cart, I'm like, it looks so good. It's exactly how I wanted it to be. But it was a long process. It was way over budget. They overran bottles, 50,000 of them, that I didn't have the money to pay them. They weren't going to give me any of the bottles till I paid them for all the, I had to prepay everything. So it was a hard process, but it worked out that we got them in the summer of 2019, and the distillery was done in 2019. So since our new distillery, we've had the new bottles and all that. And then our first flavor, the new distillery, was cucumber, which I went to the farmer's market, sourced the cucumbers. So cucumber, people ask what's my favorite V1? It's like I have 4 kids. I definitely don't have a favorite. Depends on the day, right, how they're acting. Right?
I know exactly.
You know how that is.
That's how it works.
But
We
you
talked about that with someone else too.
And sometimes that one who's always bothering you, you're like, wait a minute, you're awesome. You're my favorite.
Yeah. For the day. For the day.
So, I love them all the same. I love all the V1s all the same. But if I was on a desert island, I could only have one besides the original because it's so versatile. It would probably be that cucumber because that was the one where I had my own place. Everything was done. It was the first one that we were doing, in our own distillery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like the firstborn child
It
in
is,
some
yeah.
ways.
There's something about that firstborn, yeah. So you mentioned when you were holding the bottle, is that an important component about the bottle design? Because you got to think people are looking at it at the bar. You want bartenders to feel is that something that goes into it, the design?
Totally.
Yeah.
People say, well, with the experience you have, you could, make probably more money than I do now just consulting in this business. And I see brands launch, and I'm like, a good brand will have our business called on-premise, off-premise. Off-premise are liquor stores where you consume it. Off-premise, on-premise are bars and restaurants. V1 is now about 65% on-premise, which means someone's going into the bar and asking for V1, which is a great, healthy sign for the brand.
For sure.
And you want that bartender to be able to grab it. And I see brands launch that there's a vodka that comes in a square bottle, no neck. And I'm like, no one's ever they're not gonna pour that at any bar, anytime. If it's,
because kind of a pain to pour it, right?
Yeah.
and so you really have to think about that because the original design from hold on, I gotta take a sip here. Original design from these French guys were to have the neck a little shorter, and I lengthened it and like had my wife like from a female hand like how stable it was.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, a lot of brands don't, because if you want to be a success, brands are created. Every brand that's successful is created on premise, because that's where you're first going to try something. Oh, I tried this bourbon somewhere, right? I'm not going to necessarily go to a store and buy a $50, $60, $70 bottle of bourbon or tequila, or unless you see it online, like a video of someone that, rates it. You're going to try it and be like, oh, I had this great V-One lemon drop martini. Now I'm going to go to the store and buy a bottle.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's so important. This year I'm really focusing on premise. We have some programs that we're doing. And, we have this bar at the Cape that, will sell like 200 cases of V1, which is an absurd number, because we work with them, got on the drink menu, and now, okay, those stores around, these liquor stores around that restaurant are now, we see growth because people try, oh, what is this? It's V1. Now I'm going to go buy a bottle.
Yeah. So for all of our listeners outside of New England, the Cape is Cape Cod. Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Tell us too about, because everybody, you know what? The first thing people always say, like V1, it's so smooth. It's awesome. But they also say, I love the logo. I love the label. It's just classy, very like it's simple. It's clean. It kind of reflects the flavor profile of the vodka too. So tell us about your logo development and the label.
So my company's called Valley Vodka, as you guys know. You guys do my payroll. And the brand was going to be called Valley Vodka, because I had this idea of being like, all right, you got great local beer, great local wine. I'm going to be the local spirit guy. And I was actually going to make it in Hadley and had this whole $5 million distillery. I brought the plans back, and in the front, you could Google it, easy to search. The Hampshire Gazette had a water ban in Hadley. And during distillation, obviously you use a lot of water, and vodka is 60% water, but in cooling the equipment, and I was like, I actually visited a distillery in Poland that they had projected a certain amount of water coming from this distillery, and the wells were running dry, and it was sitting there. It was like a $10 million mistake because they couldn't ship the water in. So I was like, maybe I should make it in Poland. But Valley Vodka, I had the kind of this design, the Pioneer Valley, brought it to, again, my brother went to Harvard, had some connections in Boston. We brought it to this big marketing company on a Thursday, had the whole project, and they're like, that name sucks. Valley Vodka doesn't mean anything. But I had this V thing, and they're like you said, good vodka is clean and simple. And I wanted to be like a logo, something memorable, something just clean and simple. You had Belvedere, which is named after the Polish White House, Chopin, Frederick Chopin, the pianist. You had Grey Goose. But I wanted to be, again, being the youngest of five, I wanted to be over here, do my own thing. So simple and clean. So we went with V1, and then the logo's changed. You notice I can see different bottles and different renditions of it. This is staying. I'm never changing. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But we've actually, again, those French guys that helped develop the bottle, they had some woman in France do this cursive O&E, different way, 100 different times, and picked out the one that I like the best. And yeah, V1, we use one ingredient. There's a V in the front, V in the back, stands for Valley Vodka. A lot of vodkas now, by definition of one thing that you do have to do in America is say what the product's made from. So every alcohol, every vodka says it's distilled from this, or this. If it says distilled from grain could be anything. They could put anything in it. I have kind of a famous picture to me of I visited hundreds of distilleries, and I went in back of one, and literally they had a pile of Fruit Loops, Cheerios, old cereal that they were getting in for free and using that to distill and make alcohol. They had totes, like 2-ton totes of potato chips that they, again, anything natural you can ferment, distill. And so I'm there pointing to it. And so that, we say distill from Spelt, made from 100% Spelt. We want people to know. But if you look at a lot of vodkas, it says distilled from grain. So grain could be anything. It could be potato chips.
That is crazy. Yeah. it's like a catch-all for whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
That's good though. Yeah, I love the logo, and it just like it feels clean, and it feels like the V1, it also has like a classiness to it, you know what I mean? Which I think that's what you're going for with, well, I mean anybody, that's something that's so great too, is like you were talking about earlier, like the trend for anything that people ingest, food, beverage, anything. And people are just more conscious about that now. And so it's like being in the right place at the right time with the vodka, I think, for V1 is just the fact that consumers are more aware of what they're putting in their bodies, and they want to be healthy, and they want something that's clean, and it's not, no artificial, no, I mean, not to hate on Fruit Loops. They're awesome, but I don't eat them.
Right.
I always wanted them as a kid. My parents would never buy them,
Well,
Mine
maybe
too.
it was in vodka that you were drinking. You didn't even know it.
Funny that, because my mom was like way ahead of her time in terms of organic, like all this stuff. And she used to give us Spelt pasta as kids. And we were like, no,
funny.
we wanted the white pasta, not the brown one. And we would be like, I'm not eating that. So, fast forward 30 years later.
Hey,
it's like,
she was
Mom,
prophetic.
You were right.
Yeah.
This is like
Yeah.
the best
That's
for you.
great.
It's funny.
It's really interesting. So obviously you have this very interesting business story. Like you said, you started kind of just distilling in your basement. But what advice do you have for somebody else who's starting a business, whether it be going into vodka or beer, anything really? What advice do you have for somebody starting out in their basement, essentially?
Yeah, you have to love what you do, and you have to have a passion. I remember one of my friends, maybe 3 or 4 years after I started V1, he wanted to start a business. And so let's say he needed 10 grand, and he had a Harley. And I was like, sell your Harley. How much can you get for your Harley? He's like, 15,000. I was like, sell it. He's like, nah, I don't want to sell it. I love that bike. How bad do you want it? Is that something you really want to do? I had again, I'm the youngest of 5, so my brother, that's 10 years older than me, had a BMW 750 so I bought it from when I was a banker. I bought it from him. So, 20s driving around this thing, had it. And I'm like, I'm going to start this business. I'm like, sell the car. I had this, small rinky boat, sold the boat, liquidated which everyone said don't do, liquidated my bank 401k, whatever it was. You get penalized 50%. Just do it. And you do it because it's something you love to do, and you're passionate about it. And if you're educated, education obviously is very important. If everything fell apart, God willing, I could go back to any bank and be a banker and have a good living and good life, take the risk. So my advice is it's something you really have to go all in, and not really can't be like, oh, maybe I'm going to do it, maybe I'm not. And I think, again, my competitors that, again, raised 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. I mean, I know these firsthand. Brand that started with $10 million sent 10 containers to Florida 15 years ago, and 8 containers of vodka is still sitting in Florida. Like, they had this name, they did the bottle, they did everything, but whoever was behind it just didn't have the passion for it. That's what I hope people get from V1, is the passion that I have for the product, in that, people say, oh, I want to support V1 because it's local. Well, it's Polish vodka, so it's not necessarily local. I'm local, and you can see me, see my family, and we support, 365, I'm sure you guys get it, 365 days a year I get, can you donate to this charity or that? And
we get that all the time.
so
Yeah.
many, and you don't want to say no. And
Right.
a lot of times we're like, oh, we'll leave something at the door, come pick it up for this. Actually, one of my crowning moments, V1 got invited to its first wedding. We got a wedding invitation. So invite V1 Vodka to our wedding. And I asked my wife, I was like, do you know these people? No, I don't know. I had never seen them before. Even I showed the card to my friends. No one knew them, but V1 got invited to a wedding. So boxed up a nice bottle, bar mat, 2 glasses. Congratulations on your wedding.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Sorry, we can't go, but I don't know who you are.
You
but
ever find out who it was?
no, I mean, I just sent it to them. So that
Yeah.
was recently, but like the fact that someone would appreciate the brand, what we try to do. With
Yeah.
the quality. And again, whether you think V1's the best vodka in the world or not, hey, I like vanilla ice cream. You like chocolate ice cream. That's fine. You each have different taste buds, but I hope people appreciate what I try to put into it and the quality of it. And saying, actually, a cool thing is about AI is, you're looking at searching and I put in AI, what is V1 vodka? And it popped out something like a highly respected whatever. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like I actually created something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good.
Especially if AI is telling you it's good, then it's got to be really good.
Yeah.
Then you got to say what is the best tasting vodka?
Yeah, you got to get
And
it
it'll
to
say I haven't actually been updated to try those yet. Something like that, You know how it says that
Yeah.
sometimes?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get it so it is programmed to say that.
Yeah. Paul, I heard you talk a couple months ago, and you were talking about your work ethic and your dad and being brought up. And you said about your dad, he taught me not only to be a good businessman, but also how to be a good Catholic. And I know your faith is a big part of your life. I mean, V1, your headquarters is actually in a former church in Hadley, Massachusetts. You traveled to Ukraine with Roman Catholic priests. So you can tell us a little bit about how that informs your business journey.
Yeah. Try to live the 10 commandments, right? Love God with all your heart and all your soul and love your neighbor as yourself. So our distillery is like an hour from the Ukraine border. And obviously the Ukraine-Russian war is very complex. Many different things going on there. But I always felt, the city of Lviv is 80% Polish. It's about half hour into Ukraine. So a lot of going back and forth, borders changed throughout the years. So when we heard the war was going on, I was actually at Disneyland, Disney World with my kids. This is the happiest place on earth. And I'm like, bombs are dropping not far from Poland. I got to get there. So Father Peter Pavlis and I were like, let's go, hop on a plane. We were there on 10 days after the start of the war. Said I'm going to bring, a couple $1,000s of my own money, and ended up raising another 25,000, and people donated while we were there. So it was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. And just, trying to, live your faith and be a good dad and do things the right way. In my business, if you don't pay your bills within 60 days, you get posted. So you have to pay your bills within 60 days in the liquor business in the state of Massachusetts. So a lot of my, when we were self-distributing, a lot of customers would send me checks. And a lot of times I'd get checks that would be like, you overpaid me by $1,000. Easily something to cash and be like, knowing that, hey, it's not our money, we're giving it back. Just doing things the right way. Kind of that, there's a saying that I kind of developed over the last few years, or that I've tried to live by. So in Poland, when you're in mass, there's so many priests that instead of ushers, doing the basket, there's any mass, there's priest serving, and then there's like 4 other priests at the mass, and they pass the basket around. And the priests say, Bóg zapłać. And so it kind of means bless you, but the words literally means God will repay you. So when you kind of put money in the basket, it means God will repay you. So that if you do something kind of in this world, that it will come back to you.
Yeah.
So that Bóg zapłać, God will repay you, is something that I've tried to live by.
I love that. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it's a great
Yeah,
sentiment.
Bóg is God, which is kind of a weird name for God, but that's what it is in Polish.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about your headquarters too, because is it former St. John's Church in
Yeah.
Hadley, Roman Catholic parish, right?
The only bad that was the Irish church, not the Polish church.
Oh,
But
okay.
I
That's
am
all right,
I am
though.
half Irish and
Yeah.
half Polish, so it's appropriate. Yep. So it closed in 1998. I bought it in 2014. So it was empty for a number of years, and they actually left three things there. They left the organ, this mosaic of the Eucharist, and they left a Last Supper granite stone thing that I cherish.
Oh, I saw a picture of that on your on maybe it was an article or social media. But
Yeah. Um, if you everybody has to go to Poland, and you have to go to Krakow. It's the greatest city in the world. And if you go to Krakow, yes, you have to go to Auschwitz and see all that stuff there. Once is enough. But you have to go to this place called Velichka. And Velichka is a salt mine that's underground, like 10 football fields. And these people were mining salt, obviously to eat, but people down there started like living down there, and they built a church in Velichka, and every inch is made out of salt. So like the carving of Pope John Paul II is salt, and the chandelier is salt, and on the wall there's a Last Supper, and it's out of salt, but it's perfectly made and looks just like the thing that was left in my church. So I look at that, and it looks just like this thing. Now, don't go to Velichka hungover, because I've done that a couple times, because you go downstairs like 60 flights, and you just keep going down and down and down. And if you're claustrophobic, and then to go up, you have to go in this like elevator that's like a cage thing. I did hear they have like Marriott elevators go up and down. I'm like, I'm doing that VIP next time I go. I'm not doing this like going down the stairs, but going there. Yeah. So I'm in that St. John's. I'm great. I feel like I'm not the owner of it. I'm more of a caretaker of that property. It's very special for me in terms of the fact that I'm a Catholic, and I took it over, and we still have the cross on top because we're a Christian business. Got a couple complaints, but still up there.
Hey, I think if you get complaints, it's good. You're doing the right thing
Yeah.
sometimes. No, but you said like you got to go to Poland. I'm not just saying this because you're Polish and you obviously love that country, but I went to Poland. It was our senior trip. At Hoyo Catholic, like it was like a rotation every year. You didn't know what country was gonna come up next, but for some reason it was Poland for my senior trip. I was like, I don't really know anything about Poland, but I'm going. But Krakow, it's one of my favorite cities over there. It's just, I mean, I remember like sitting in the
Sukanice.
that rectangular square. What is that? Is that the old town?
St. Mary's Square is
Yeah.
called the Sukanice. It's a old cloth hall. So it's the oldest running like shop in the world. So it's maybe like 2 football fields inside where they sell all kind of Polish stuff.
Yes, it
And
was
then-
awesome.
and
I
then
bought so many souvenirs for people there.
I have a whole drawer in my house of like 100 items that I just keep
Yeah.
from there, that when people come over, I'll be like, oh, here's some Polish coasters or
Yeah.
a shot glass that you can put around your neck.
Yeah.
And the thing about that
That's convenient.
there is, I've been there 50 something times, and like I can't get enough of it. Like I could be there forever. Like every time I leave, like I want to be back. So I'll be back there August 4th.
Yeah, it does have this feeling like Polish people are just like awesome. There's like this warmness of and genuineness of the Poles. But the place that made biggest impression on me, tell me if I'm pronouncing it right, Yasna Gora Monastery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Black Madonna of
Czestochowa.
Thank you. But yeah, just so much history. I mean, we were talking earlier, like you go to a place like that, and it's like a cathedral built 1,000 years ago or 800 years ago, and of course, birthplace of Pope St. John Paul II. But you've been there what, like 60 times? I read somewhere, or probably more at this point. But
It's like 65.
yeah. Tell us a little bit too about like because a big part of your business, you need to manage operations in the United States, but in Poland. So what's that like? How do you balance that?
Yeah, so I own 50, or Valley Vodka owns 51% of the distillery. And so I have a partner, Andre Ballas. He's been making vodka for 30 something years. And his kids, the next generation, are in their 30s, are about to take over. He's got 3 sons. So Tomek, Chistov, and Piotrek, I'm working with them now. So they really have it, been doing that for a long time and cover all that production side of things. And, we WhatsApp, very frequently, every couple weeks to see what's going on there. And I was going 4 times a year before. Now the kids got a little older. It's harder to lead them.
Yeah.
So
You must haul them all over there once in a while,
yeah,
right?
we go once a year, and
Yeah.
I was going 3 times a year without them. But
You have family over there?
distant in Krakow.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family's from near that salt mine.
Yep.
But really, things are really kind of running themselves over there, so I can focus more on growing the brand here in America.
That's great. Yeah.
I might need a little refill.
It's very good.
See, look at that. That's a true founder right there. And it's impressive. Like, what is it about the Poles are like they can handle that.
So
It's in the blood, right?
So there's 330 million people in America, 33 million in Poland, so 10 times more. And Polish people drink the same volume of vodka. So they drink 10 times more
That
per
doesn't
person.
surprise me.
But again, it's part of the culture. Obviously, if you go to a wedding and say there's 100 people, there probably is 100 bottles of vodka at the wedding. Every other person, there's a bottle there. It's just part of the culture of just sitting, having 2 shot glasses, 1 bottle. Andre and I, we're getting a little older, so it's a little tougher. But this is my 750 milliliter bottle, but I'll have the liter bottle, which is 33 shots, and we kind of have to finish that before the day's over. So 15 shots each.
You're just kind of like obligated, you just got to clean it up.
Well, it's funny you say that about the weddings and all of the alcohol there. So when I was little, like I mentioned to you earlier, my family's from Poland. And so I asked my grandma, I said, oh, like what type of Polish traditions are there for weddings? Because, when you're a little kid and your family's going through like cultural, or at school, you're talking about the cultural traditions. And my grandma was like, everybody just parties for multiple days.
Yeah, multiple days. Yep.
And I was like, well, I can't really bring that to school.
Yeah.
So can we make
You
it
can't
more
bring the vodka to school.
Yeah, can we make it more school related? But yes, that is one thing I know from my family is vodka is important and partying a lot is important for big celebrations and life milestones, of course.
So that first trip to Poland when I was with Merrick. Now, do you guys remember the movie The Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, like scary guy. This is what Merrick looked like. So he
Like Anthony Hopkins?
yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
But the scary version of him. So he left me one day and we went he didn't speak very much English at that time. I spoke no Polish. So he left me with this guy and he's like, I'm going to take you to this bar that the owner, he's Polish, but he knows English. So you go to this bar and hang out with them. So after that day, I was like part of their family. The next day there was a baptism. So they invited me to this baptism. I was like 3 days in Poland, again, didn't know one person in the country, by myself, 20 something. I remember this hall and everybody was celebrating this baptism with vodka. It was like,
how else do you celebrate a baptism?
Of
hall,
course.
and everyone was just pounding vodka. And again, at that time, if I had 2 shots of vodka, it would be like, I would be like, oh, this is, I just wasn't used to it. So, but that was like within the first few days, I was invited to a baptism in Krakow with this family, and they took me in like I was family, and we were doing shots of vodka.
Paul, it seems like a lot of people who've been in business for a while have like a right-hand man or woman. Who's yours?
Yeah, definitely my wife.
Yeah.
She's been in it for 12 years now, so she's my CFO, And
That's an important job.
yeah, so obviously, making it so that the house runs smoothly and that side of things, I'm pretty hands on. But if I need to be in Poland for a week, I can be in Poland for a week. And so, yeah, that. And now I have Jay Asigian, who's my New England sales rep. He was with a big wine company and he just left, came on board with V1. So he's doing a great job, spreading the V1 message out in Boston.
Oh, great. What's his role?
New England sales manager.
Okay.
And as part of the V1 expansion, I'm going to be growing to new markets, raising some money, and really growing the brand to where it needs to be. The next step of my business is just getting more brand recognition. And so really doing that, we're selling in Texas now, all New England, but I'd like to be in New York City and Florida pretty soon.
Yeah.
Our color changing lemon, right? So this is a great citrus vodka. The reason why it's blue or purple is because it has this butterfly pea flower. So I saw a mixologist in New York City. Blue curacao is a great mixer to put in drinks to make them look cool, but blue curacao is artificially blue. So a lot
Really?
of so like the real I went to the curacao distillery in Curacao. It's just alcohol with sugar and unripened oranges is a flavoring, but the color blue comes from just like Jolly Rancher blue coloring. So a lot of mixologists wanted to have something natural. So maybe 7-8 years ago, they found this flower from Indonesia called the butterfly pea flower. And when you infuse it, like you infuse a tea bag in water, right? That tea becomes, that color becomes of the tea. If you infuse that flower, it becomes this color. So you can make a cool colored drink, but it's naturally done. So I posted on Instagram maybe 7 years ago about, hey, you want to make a cool colored drink? You can do that. And then I saw the trends and I'm like, wow, I need to bottle this. So this has real butterfly pea flower in it to make this. And then when you add citrus, it changes colors because the citrus reacts with the flower. So, something like this, yeah, we want to do RTDs or seltzers, but still, I mean, what percentage of the population doesn't know that this exists? So I want people to know about this first.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, but even to your point about, if you're in the store and like how the vodka looks in people's carts, if I
looks
I was
awesome.
at the store and trying to pick out a vodka or a drink, that is so pretty. I mean, the color is so pretty. Like the logo looks so nice. The fact that the yellow is the one is in a yellow instead. I mean, it looks very nice. That's something that I would definitely pick up. And so, with that bottle and that logo, everything just ties in so perfectly.
But it's real too. That's the
And
that's the key.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then somebody would pick it up and say, oh, like, and then this is, organic. This has ingredients that I don't mind putting in my body.
You see, you're my key demographic, but people want to know what they can do with it. That's what I'm working on today is like, all right, what do you do with this? Well, this makes the best lemon drop martini in the world. So what are the ingredients? What's something we can do very simply to make this? And we even want to do it like tableside. So if you put Cointreau, this, simple syrup, pour it, it's blue. And then tableside, pour it in the martini glass, and then squeeze fresh lemon in it in like a pre-mixed, lemon squeezer. And then it changes colors like, wow, that looks really cool. So this is like the vodka to make a lemon drop martini. So, but it's so important to like you kind of lead people to say if people want to know what they can do with anything. The famous story about Smirnoff is no one was buying vodka whenever Smirnoff came out, and no one was buying ginger beer. So they got some guy to come up with a drink called the Moscow Mule because they were distributing vodka and ginger beer. No one was buying those two things, but they came up with the Moscow Mule and put it in this copper cup, came up with a drink, and then Smirnoff took off because they came up with something to do with it.
Those copper cups are what make the difference.
Yeah, it keeps it really chilled.
Yeah.
We actually, my peppermint, a peppermint Moscow Mule is unbelievable. So for the holidays, we do that in the copper mug. It's one of the top drinks you're gonna have.
Do you make your own cocktails? So for the event tastings that you have, are you the one coming up with them, or do you
Yeah,
have
most
kind
of
of like
them.
a team to help you?
No, most of them are
It's
made.
you.
Yep.
Is your wife the taste tester?
Yeah, my wife's kind of a purist, so she just likes simple. She loves the V1. So that's my newest one. Yep. So she, all of them she liked, but like she loves this one. And I finally like, oh, you finally accept me, like
The lemon?
she loves the lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, I was just Paul that owned, her husband. When I made the lemon, she's like, you made V1 lemon. Like I stepped it up a notch.
I
in
know.
her
Isn't that
eyes.
funny? How you could sometimes see the change. You're like, oh, what? She's like, oh, wow, you're somebody like different. You're not just my husband. You're somebody like, wow, you did that. You're like the guy who did
Like now
that.
you're important.
Yeah.
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 It's like,
The V1 lemon made me important in her eyes.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. Paul, so we've been talking a lot about like V1. It's organic, it's clean, it's craft. Do you feel that the trends in the liquor industry as a whole, because we were talking about like, okay, we've gone through craft beers, craft wines, like a lot of people are into like whiskeys and bourbons and things like that. What are we primed for the craft vodka movement?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't see people going back and being like, oh, I'm super stoked for Rubinoff.
Yeah.
Right? I don't see that ever happening.
Yep.
So people want things that, people are in the know about, well, I'm not. I think the future of V1 is I don't want to drink corn vodka. I want to drink better ingredient vodka. And I think that's not going to stop as we get more educated about what spirits are. So I always kind of said like V1's at the end of that rainbow of where, we were maybe ahead of our time in terms of ingredients. And again, I look to other spirits, people say, oh, gin's going to be the next. I've heard it for a decade. Gin's the next thing. Rum's the next thing. Now tequila is the next thing. Bourbon is the next thing. Those two things are definitely growing significantly. And, no knock on Jose Cuervo, but I'm never getting a bottle of Jose Cuervo, right? Actually, that's not even made from a blue agave plant. That's corn alcohol mixed with other things. So I think, again, we're not going to be less educated about spirits. We're going to only be more educated about things. And the people that, I always say drink less, but drink better. I think the trends are going that way. Drinking better, whatever we're putting in our bodies, we want to have better. And there's no doubt about it that Spelt is the best ingredient to make vodka.
Yeah. And you're right. Like we think so much about our food, our milk, our like the ingredients and everything. And it does seem like alcohol is like the last thing that people really need to think like, wait, where is this coming from? What actually is this?
My second favorite spirit is tequila. Where is it coming from? Who's making it? And tequila does a great job. They have this thing called NOM, N-O-M. On every bottle, it has to have this number. And the number is associated with the distillery. So you could say like 1535. That's the same distillery that makes Jose Cuervo. All right. Now there's a tequila called Tres Agaves. I looked it up. It's like a family-owned distillery. I tried it, again, warm, something I didn't talk about, but every tasting, when you want to say, I like this brand or don't like this brand, straight room temperature versus, its competitors. So I've had Tres Agaves versus Casamigos, which is, $1 billion brand owned by George Clooney that has that additives in it. Tres Agaves doesn't. So you're having them straight, you're tasting them, you're smelling them, you see what's in it. But then you have this NOM number that's associated with the factory or distillery where it's made. So then you're looking, but only that stuff's going to increase. Never going back to be like, I want this junk that's made in this factory where everything else is
Made from Fruit Loops and Frito-Lays. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome, Paul. So what's coming next? Like, where can people find you? Where, like,
Yeah, we
events, things like that?
We just, on our website, V1Vodka.com, now we can ship to 34 states. So I have the next flavor of V1. I actually just got my prototype of the label. Can't reveal it yet. But
Darn.
inspiration for that one was actually the Fruit Loop distillery I visited. Had this
See, silver lining on there.
Yeah, it had this very nice flavor that I'm taking my own riff on it.
Yeah.
And so that should be coming out for the holidays. But really just trying to grow the brand outside of New England, getting that next level of people to know about it. And just talk about ingredients. Ingredients matters. Spelt matters. And increasing our footprint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thanks, Paul. We really appreciate you coming
this
on. It's
was
been an
awesome.
awesome conversation. And we tasted it live, and it's a perfect product.
Some of us enjoyed the Martini more than others, but I get it. Like,
yeah. What's up? But we're gonna have to finish that off after when we.
I did just have a baby. I was not going to go too hard.
Yes, but you had the baby, so now it's like, yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Paul
no,
Kozub
this
from
is
V1
amazing.
Vodka.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Checkwriters. Be sure to follow us on Apple, YouTube, or wherever you view your favorite podcasts. Stay tuned for future episodes where we'll continue to uncover the secrets behind successful organizations.